Good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon's evidence is going to be transmitted but by voice only, and as usual, only after 10 minutes have elapsed. Those with mobile telephones may use them to report what they have heard in the inquiry room, but only after 10 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're recording. They may not be used for recording. The event that they're reporting, they may not be used for recording. Yes.
HN3, we're returning to the topic of the WTO demonstration on November the 30th, 1999. If I could bring up, please, MPS 0002718, that's C27. And this is a report of yours, HN3, dated the 1st of December, 1999. So it's just afterwards. Paragraph 3, please, on this page. This reads, the intention of the organisers was to stage a non-confrontational demonstration against the privatisation of London Underground. Contrary to the reports in the national press, the violence that occurred was not orchestrated by the organisers, who had specifically intended a low-key event to follow on from J18. Speakers at the rally included Privacy from the RMT and Andy Manka, sorry, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, from RTS. HN3, this suggests that it was obvious to you then that Reclaim the Streets did not intend for this to be a disorderly event. Is that fair?
Yes, I agree.
And in fact, it was quite the opposite. They specifically wanted the event to be low-key and peaceful. Is that fair? There's a reference there to press reports, to the press misrepresenting the militancy and the violent tendencies of Reclaim the Streets. Reclaim the Streets, in their witness statement, refer to a Sunday Times headline, Reclaim the Streets are stockpiling stun guns and CS gas grenades. Do you remember that at the time?
Vaguely.
But it was your impression, clearly, that the press were grossly exaggerating the threat, for want of a better word, that Reclaim the Streets posed. Is that accurate?
For this occasion, specifically, yes.
On page 2, if we go to page 2 of this report, please. Just the first paragraph where it says, a large number of people were masked up on arrival at Euston and remained so for the evening. People expected, in previous RTS fashion, to be led elsewhere for the main demonstration/confrontation, and appeared frustrated when it became clear that there was no secret plan. And then, sorry, if we could go to the final paragraph there, at no point, which reads, at no point during any of the planning meetings was the subject of a possible riot discussed, although it was inherently obvious that if RTS organised the speakers, banners, etc., the dynamics of the crowd could eventually lead to disorder. Although pleased with the outcome of the evening, there remains the problem that the press will once again vilify RTS, and that in doing so, the issues surrounding the World Trade Organization and tube privatisation will go unreported. Apologies, I feel like I've repeated myself. Sorry, I apologise. I'm looking at the wrong section. We've talked about that. Sorry, bear with me. I've lost myself. Sorry, bear with me. Is this, which report is this? MCIT's? I do apologise, HN3. Something's become confused in my plan. I will find the correct reference and I will take you to it. What I want to ask you about is really how everything unfolded on this day at this rally. So there's a reference in a report to some fireworks being let off. And it says in this report, I will find the reference, this is from you, saying that a large number of the crowd followed a group of 30 people onto the bus concourse, whereupon the police were attacked. Can you help us with what you mean by that? So,
I think it was, sorry, to the best of my recollection, this was late in the evening after the speeches had finished, I believe.
Yeah.
I witnessed some kind of kicking of shields and sort of pushing and shoving is the best I can describe it as at that point. And then I think things moved to be a bit more fluid. There was lots of running around and things developed from there.
Was it or did you witness that there was a police cordon introduced at this event, so that people, because what Reclaim the Streets say is that people were trying to leave the event at the end of the evening, but they were prevented from doing so by a police cordon. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I agree that's the case. I think this was the first, my recollection, this is the event where the van was set on fire.
Yes.
And nearly caused, I think that was, so this, to the best of my recollections, this was the first use of Section 60, the kettling.
Yeah. Sorry,
so,
I interrupted you.
This is the same event. So yes, people were trying to go home.
Would you agree that the use of kettling and the cordon actually inflamed the situation? That if people had just been allowed to disperse, then disorder would not have broken out?
No, disorder had already broken out at this point. I dispute that.
But did disorder break up after the kettling, as it were?
No, the kettling takes a while to put into place, and that happened almost at the very end of the evening. I think disorder had already broken out up and down the Euston Road by this point.
The kettling, as it were, took place inside Euston on the bus concourse. Is that accurate?
On the grass out the front, between the grass and the Euston, yes, between the bus concourse and the Euston Road, I believe.
And were the police taking photographs, were fit there taking photographs of people within that kettle?
I don't know.
That's not something you witnessed, I suppose, should be the question. Did you see fit officers? Just so I understand correctly, were you outside this cordon section? You weren't in the group of people that were surrounded?
That's my recollection, yes.
Were you nearby? I mean, were you observing?
Yes.
From nearby? You've referred to some pushing and shoving. Did you see anyone from RTS participating in that?
No.
You've referred to the overturning of the van. I think it was a London Transport Police van.
I don't think it was overturned. I think it was set on fire.
Set on fire, right. Yes, sorry. I think, yeah. As far as you know, was anyone in Reclaim the Streets involved in that?
No.
When you say that, in this report that we've looked at, that at no point during any of the planning meetings was the subject of a possible riot discussed, although it was inherently obvious that if RTS organised the speakers' banners, the dynamics of the crowd could eventually lead to disorder. Again, what do you mean by that exactly? How is it inevitable that if RTS organised a peaceful protest, that it would degenerate into disorder?
Just by basing it off all their previous events, from the M40, North London Street Party, South London Street Party, J18. I think it was inevitable in a lot of people's minds who were going to these events that this was the inevitable conclusion. Not everyone's, but that's in the people who attended.
I understand, but not people from RTS. You just mean other people who came along.
Yes.
Right. Again, in that same section of the report where you say that RTS, you say that they were pleased with the outcome. Well, sorry, you say that, apologies, I've lost my thread. Yeah, so in the source comment, it says that the final paragraph, at no point during any of the planning meetings, I've read that bit, and then you say, although pleased with the outcome of the evening, there remains the problem that the press will once again vilify RTS. When you say pleased with the outcome of the evening, who was pleased with the outcome?
I think because it had been members of the organising group, I think, were pleased that people had turned up. It was quite a big turnout, as it turned out, and despite the disorder, we were able to have the demonstration outside Euston.
Okay, so pleased with the outcome despite the disorder, not
Yes,
because
I'd
of
agree.
the disorder. Okay. And again, just for the avoidance of doubt, this reference to the press will once again vilify RTS, and in doing so, the issues surrounding the World Trade Organization and tube privatisation will go unreported. Again, is this a reference to RTS wanting to win the battle for meaning, as it were?
Just to be accurately reported, that the reason for the demonstration was against the tube privatisation,
Yeah.
and not descend into tabloid sensationalism.
Yeah. Brief digression, HN3. I'd like to bring up, please, a document MPS 0009465. It's B42. This is a strategy meeting, HN3, about your deployment. It's dated the 27th of January 2000. And the first paragraph reads as, the past year has seen Red Herring make great strides, actions such as Diggers, JA Team, COPEX, N30 had ensured he was becoming known to a number of leading lights in the environmental field. He needs to continue his progress with May Day on the horizon. The opportunity will present itself. He now feels comfortable at meetings and is beginning to have a group of social friends outside the meetings. I just want to draw your attention to that final sentence. He now feels comfortable at meetings. So does it follow from that up until this point, the 27th of January 2000, you felt uncomfortable at RTS meetings?
Not uncomfortable, but I think I was probably very self-conscious.
Self-conscious because you were worried that you weren't fitting in, that you might stick
No,
out?
clearly I knew who I really was.
Yeah.
And you assumed, no, not assumed. I actually knew who I was going into an environment I wasn't comfortable in. It took me a while to get comfortable.
If we just look at the second section, it said Jordan's voiced suspicions about him had set him back a little, but he was happy that this was merely usual paranoia setting in. Jordan has now moved his gaze onto someone else. Jordan, if I understand correctly, is an individual who you knew as John Jordan. Do you recall him?
I do.
This would appear, but please correct me if I'm wrong, to be a reference to something that Boyling mentioned, Jim Boyling mentioned in his evidence, that Jordan had said to Boyling that he suspected you of being a policeman. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Did Boyling report that back to you directly?
No.
Did you hear that from Bernard Greene?
Yes. From the office. Jim had spoken to, in my recollection, Jim had spoken to the office. Apologies, there's a bit of feedback.
Yeah.
Jim had reported that back to the office and then they discussed it with me, is my recollection.
You refer to this in your witness statement and you say, this is at paragraph 352, you say it put you into something of a panic because you did not want to be compromised before you have really got off the ground. I discussed it in some depth with the SDS management, but I believe that management took the view that I could probably weather the storm, which turned out to be the case. Was there some consideration given at that time to withdrawing you from? So that was never seriously considered. You were in something of a panic. Were SDS managers sympathetic to that, or were they?
Yeah, very, very much so, yeah. In the early, to happen in the first few months, or I forget the chronology, but in the early days, yes, they were very sympathetic and discussed a range of options. And as it turned out, it was the correct way.
Fine. It blew over, if I understand
absolutely.
correctly. In a document which, I'll read it out, we don't need to bring it up, it's MPS 0723144. This was a meeting held in 2011 to discuss the risks to you after the Guardian article. And an individual called HN367 was at that meeting, and a DI. I don't know if you just want to remind yourself who that was. But don't worry, it's not that important to the point I want to make.
Okay.
Yeah. In this, you were recorded to have said that J. Jordan disliked you, but that you became trusted friends. Do you stand by that?
Trusted is probably, you'd have to speak to him, but yeah, we became quite friendly actually, yeah, after this.
Well, I ask you because he disputes that, so I wanted to explore with you your basis for...
No, our paths crossed many times over the subsequent years, and we were always... In fact, I went to his house for dinner one night with a group of others. Friends is overstating it, acquaintances is probably more accurate.
Right. Rosa and Jim Boyling. It seems from the documents HN3, between November the 30th and May Day, there were RTS meetings every Tuesday. So in that period, I mean, give or take, I mean, it won't be completely accurate, but there were around 16 meetings. Does that sound broadly accurate?
Yes.
Now, I know we touched upon this earlier, but at this stage, were you attending every meeting?
The majority.
And to the best of your knowledge, was Jim Boyling attending every meeting?
I don't recall so, no. Was he withdrawing at this point, or?
I mean, it's the lead up to May Day, so not yet, but he is in. I mean, when you think that he withdraws in September, so he's building up to withdrawal. He's probably winding down.
I don't recall Jim at lots of those meetings.
We know that Jim Boyling and Rosa entered into a sexual relationship on the 23rd of November 1999. And in evidence, Jim Boyling said that he did attend these meetings and that Rosa attended these meetings and that they were very obviously a couple. Did you see them together as a couple at these meetings?
No, I don't recall it.
How many people were at these meetings, roughly?
I stand by what I said earlier, about 40, maybe going up to 70, or maybe in that ballpark.
Did you hear anything around this time, or were you told anything about Jim Boyling's living arrangements?
No.
So, for the avoidance of doubt, did you hear anything to the effect that he and Rosa were living together?
No, I think just to clarify, I don't believe I was ever introduced or we engineered a meeting, so we would even have known each other.
But you
My recollection. Clearly I knew him from the field, but in a environmental activist sense, I don't believe I met him where I had been on first name terms with him. I don't believe.
So you're saying that at the meetings you didn't interact with him?
No, I'm saying that I wouldn't have known him on first name terms and been friendly with him, because one of the things that when we went back, if we go all the way back to the beginning this morning, when we talked about speaking to all the other UCOs, you had to be very careful that not to say things or know things that you didn't know. And I hadn't met Jim. There'd been no reason that I would have known him.
But you have been attending RTS meetings for quite a while in the run-up to J18. So,
along with 40 to 50, 60 other people, yes.
We've established that, well, I know you struggle to recollect, but Rosa says that you had met her by this time.
I think I have done, yes.
So, apologies. No, sorry, please do finish, because I interrupted you.
My recollection is I've met Rosa at an Earth First gathering in a particular environment where we were chopping vegetables together. That's my recollection.
Right. Well, yeah, we will come to that. But my question is, you met Rosa, so did you not interact with Rosa at all at these RTS meetings when you saw her?
Potentially, if there's any reporting, then that would help.
Right.
But if there isn't, then it might be on a nodding acquaintance, sort of referring back to the gathering or something like that. But no, that I wouldn't have been in their sphere of friends.
I'll take you to some reporting. This is a Jim Boiling report, but I'm going to bring it up just in case to see whether or not you were there. So this is MPS 0002786. It's C267. And this relates to May Day. Preparations for it. Yeah, so the date is the 5th of January 2000. So it's preparations for May Day, HN3. And this is one of the first reports that the inquiry has obtained that mentions Rosa. And it reads, the initial plans for May Day 2000 are not running smoothly. The intention is to hold a 3-day event split into 2 distinct stages. Part 1 will be a 2-day indoor exhibition held over the weekend of Saturday 29th and Sunday the 30th of April. Part 2 will be the May Day gathering itself on Monday the 1st. The indoor event will comprise, if successful, a variety of stalls, workshops, displays, lectures, discussion groups, etc., etc. However, the current sticking point is a suitable venue, or to be precise, any venue. All the potential hosts approached thus far have declined to assist the project on the basis of the adverse publicity surrounding previous RTS extravaganzas. The current hope is a college in West London, but as yet nothing has been agreed. Andy Minker, Chris Grover and Rosa of RTS are all involved in organising and networking this event and are using the offices of both the Haringey Solidarity Group and LGP. Now, I appreciate HN3, this isn't your report, but to the best of your recollection, was Rosa involved in planning this aspect of May Day?
My recollection is that she was involved in the construction of puppets. Is this the right event?
I don't know. There's no mention in the reporting of puppets, but maybe you can help us with the basis for.
My recollection is that she was involved in the creation of big flower pot puppets, if I've got the right event.
Okay. Oh, right, yes, for May Day, with flower pot puppets would sound.
Yes.
And how, sorry.
I may have interacted with her, because I think, if this is the right event, that I was doing a lot of driving at the time.
Yeah.
So it's conceivable, I don't recall the specifics, but it is conceivable that I would have dropped off or picked up something. That's quite possible, yes.
Sorry if it seems like an obvious question, but how were you aware that she was involved in making flower pot puppets? Was this something you discussed with her, something you saw, something you were told?
No, I think I saw them in their embryonic stage.
And did you discuss it with her, the fact she was doing this?
I think she was one of many people, kind of with paper mache all over their hands, as I recall, making a puppet, and nothing more than that.
But it's your evidence that she was very involved in the preparations for May Day, or she had a role in the preparations for May Day?
No, my recollection is that she was involved in preparing the puppets.
Yeah, okay. Part of the preparation. I mean, I understand it's a discrete aspect of it. If we could bring up one of your... Oh, no, apologies. That's a Boiling report. Yes, okay, it's another Boiling report, so I'll bear that in mind when I ask you questions. It's MPS 0746652 C37, and this is dated the 2nd of March 2000. This reads, around 45 people turned up to the latest regular Tuesday night RTS meeting on the 29th of February 2000 to discuss the plans and preparations for the May Day mass action. Those present split into the customary smaller discussion groups, which included a guerrilla gardening subgroup, and a Monopoly Tour subgroup. The Monopoly Tour group included Tony, possibly identical with Gosling, Rob from N30, possibly identical with Banbury, Rosa, Privacy Snoo, and Privacy, possibly identical with Privacy. The plan is to meet at Bond Street Tube at 11 a.m. on May the 1st, before moving on to a number of different locations depicted on a Monopoly board. In order to mobilise what could be a large crowd at the meeting point, the organisers are planning to hand out community chest cards which will have instructions printed on them. At this stage, it is unclear what particular targets have been chosen by the organisers of this action. It's my understanding, HN3, I might be wrong, but that at May Day 2000, this Monopoly element didn't actually happen. Is that correct? Is that your recollection?
I was in the guerrilla gardening
Subgroup.
and then my participation in the day was rather curtailed.
Yes, well, we're coming to that. To the best of your recollection, don't worry if you can't remember, do you recall Rosa being involved in this Monopoly Tour subgroup for May Day 2000?
I don't know.
You can't speak to it, that's fine. Right, one final prospective report for May Day, and then we'll go to the day itself. If we could bring up, please, MPS 000 334, it's C47. Bottom of page 2, please. So this appears to be a composite report, HN3, that contains both yours and HN14's intelligence. I'm interested in the bit, we'll come to the, not much to say about Monday, but just under there. On Tuesday, the 2nd of May, there was a social instead of the regular weekly meeting. Hardly anyone turned up, and neither, to everybody's surprise, did the cops or journalists. And then it says, people at the social, and then if we go over the page, you can see Jim the Van. I mean, there's a few names that have privacy redactions, but Jim the Van, Jason, and some others. So there's not very many people there, but it's you and Jim both there. So that would suggest that you would know his first name and you would know him in his cover identity. Would you accept that?
I would know who he was, but we didn't know each other, with a kind of air quotes around the know, if that makes sense.
To the best of your recollection, she's not mentioned there, but can you recall if Rosa was at this social?
I can't, I'm afraid.
If we could go to page 4, please. Halfway down. So there's a list of names here of just people who have been involved in May Day. And if we look halfway down page 4, so we can see, can you see where it says HN3, Jason Snoo, tall bloke with beard?
Every name?
Yeah, photographed at Fidelity Action. Thank you. And then you can see there's privacy active within RTS group, and then underneath that it says Jim the Van Snoo, brackets, photographed at Fidelity Action. It's just underneath, so it's Jason Snoo, then privacy active, and then Jim the Van Snoo. You with me?
Yeah.
Now, my understanding, HN3, is that the Fidelity Action, but please do correct me if I'm wrong, that this was a protest which took place in February 2000 at a mutual fund called Fidelity about dumping shares in an oil company drilling on land in Colombia that was claimed by an indigenous tribe. Does that chime at all with your recollection?
Sorry, no.
That you don't have any recollection of that particular action?
No.
How did you know? I mean, insofar as, well, you may not, I appreciate the bit in parenthesis, photographed at Fidelity Action, you may not have put that in the report yourself. Were you aware that you had been photographed at this action?
If it was over police cameras, then yes.
In his oral evidence, Jim Boyling referred to photographs of him with Ruth and, well, particularly Ruth, but women with whom he was involved in sexual relationships, there being photographs taken of them at protests that left no doubt as to the fact that they were in relationships. Were you aware, and he said, sorry, I should explain further, and the reason he said that, he believed that because of the existence of these photographs, SDS management were aware, or at the very least the sergeants were aware, that he was having these sexual relationships. Were you aware of the existence of such photos?
I don't recall seeing those photographs, but it would have been common if there were police photographs to have been shown, as we discussed earlier with the desk meeting.
Yeah.
We would have shown particular photographs, but I don't recall this. I don't even recall the action.
Also, would you be showing these photographs at the twice-weekly meetings?
Conceivably, yes.
Right.
Conceivably.
I'd like to bring up one of your reports now in the lead up to May Day 2000. MPS 0003031 C35. Just very briefly, if we just read the first paragraph, it says, privacy has become the latest suspect in the May Day organisers' Spot the Grass competition. Take that down, please. And bring up another one, which is MPS 0003267 at C46. And the date of that is the 14th of April 2000. And the subject of this report is Suspected Infiltrator, Return Visit to RTS. This is your intelligence, and it reads, the unidentified male who attended a single RTS meeting shortly before Christmas, asking all and sundry, what are we doing on the 4th of January? Nobody except him was thinking of doing anything. Reappeared at the RTS weekly meeting on the 11th of April. To no one's surprise, he was now interested in what's happening on May Day. If he made sense of any of the replies he received, he did very well. Why did you report this kind of information, HN3?
Well, I reported everything that happened, as much as I could, detail as I could go into, so it's very relevant.
Fine. So it's part of the hoovering up process?
Yes.
Had you been instructed to report this kind of information back to special branches, specifically if people were suspected of being infiltrators?
No, not specifically.
There was a reference in an earlier document to your feeling unnerved about the fact that John Jordan had suspected you. The fact that Reclaim the Streets, or these reports suggest that Reclaim the Streets were quite alive to the possibility of infiltration, was that difficult for you? Was that nerve-wracking? Or was that something you felt by this stage that
I think
you could manage?
I think by the time of the run-up to, I think after N30, I don't think I gave it much, the same kind of level of thought as I did earlier on. And I felt quite comfortable in my surroundings and had made some good friends by this point.
Could we bring up another report, please, which is MPS 0003060, C36. This intelligence was obtained on the 24th of February. It says 20, but that would appear to be a typo. It must be 00, I think. 2000 is what I think it meant to say. The first paragraph reads, thus, the preparations for the forthcoming May Day extravaganza can best be described as an absolute shambles. Initial publicity and planning has been conducted by a variety of inexperienced groups / individuals, and their efforts have not met with the approval of their more experienced counterparts, J18 personnel, etc. As a result of this and other factors, many of the recognised organisers will be taking no part in this venture, e.g. Privacy, Val Jones, Simon Lewis. I've asked you this question before, but in a different context, HN3, absolute shambles, and the fact that experienced organisers were not involved in May Day. Again, was it your impression at this stage that RTS's potency as a force was on the wane? Somewhat.
I don't recall this report, but it would appear so from this, yes. That's a fair comment.
To what extent, if at all, were you under pressure from your managers at this stage to really step up in terms of your involvement with Reclaim the Streets?
No, not at all. As far as I was aware, they were quite happy with my progress.
My point is that Jim Boyling was really leaving in a matter of months. Again, was there any, as that date approached, was there any sense of the pressure on you from the SDS ratcheting up, or not at all?
No, I didn't perceive any.
If we could go over to the next page, please. If we look at the section under guerrilla gardening. This reads, a third category is the only one that is attracting any real interest, and even this is beset by logistical problems. Traditional RTS planning would first identify the target and then work around that to select a suitable meeting point from which the crowd can be led to the target. On this occasion, preemptive strikes by others had left them with a designated meeting point from which the action will have to develop. The major problems with this meeting point are the location, the outrageously early meeting time, and most importantly, the lack of a suitable target. The last of these problems is now being earnestly considered, but as yet no suitable location has been unearthed. With 100,000 leaflets advertising the meeting place about to be distributed, there is now little that can be done to change the meeting place. The problem of moving the crowd to its final, undecided destination are immense and will become even greater the further afield they have to be taken. Previous assemblies at major railway stations have had the advantage of room and space in which the crowd can move and in which communications can be established. Even the organisers can foresee the potential nightmare of the same crowd outside a tube station on a main thoroughfare. Given the potential proximity to traffic, shops and police, it would not take a great deal to spark off a large frustrated crowd. If I understand that correctly, HN3, did you mean by that, insofar as you can recall, that RTS were aware of the potential for disorder to break out in those circumstances and were keen to avoid that? Is that the correct reading of that paragraph?
I think so, from what I recall. That would be my reading of that now.
And then the final paragraph, the initial thoughts for the type of guerrilla gardening that would be undertaken are weird and wonderful, but as yet have no substance. Theories range from the simple planting of trees to the more extravagant construction of a straw bale house. Similarly, ideas swing between a small swift action and a much longer 6 to 7 hour site occupation. Others believe a combination of the two would be ideal. So the impression this report gives is that there are some ideas, but it's all quite up in the air. It's all a bit vague and nebulous at this stage. Would you say that's a fair reading?
Yes, I agree.
Would you agree that guerrilla gardening was largely a symbolic protest?
What, as a concept as a whole, or for
Yeah.
this particular action?
I mean, as a concept, that the idea behind it was more symbolic than actually...
No, I disagree. I think from what I heard, and this would be from the other activists, that guerrilla gardening was alive and well in New York and other major conurbations, and was quite successful for community gardening.
At what stage, HN3, did you become aware of the plan to dig up turf from Parliament Square?
I think probably quite late on, because I'm not sure that was the plan until very late.
But you were aware of that plan prior to the day itself?
I'm sorry, I missed the first bit.
Sorry, you were aware of the intention to dig up turf from Parliament Square before the day itself? Is that what you said?
I think so, but we obviously had bags of manure to hand out, so there would be no necessity to dig it up. But I think if that was an option, then so be it, would be my recollection.
Do you recall, we haven't obtained any reporting to that effect from you or HN14, but to the best of your recollection, did you report that there was a plan, perhaps, to dig up turf from Parliament Square?
That's my recollection.
You referred HN3 to being in the guerrilla gardening subgroup. Is that accurate? How many people were in that group?
I'm sorry, I can't recall.
But I suppose my question is, was it 25 people? Was it 5
Oh, no,
people?
no. More than 5, less than 15.
Did that group make key decisions in relation to the guerrilla gardening aspect of the day?
My recollection, it was more logistics based.
When you say logistics based, do you mean moving manure around the place and
the flyers, fetching the manure, all the things that went with that? That's my recollection.
Did you influence the decisions that were taken in that subgroup?
No, I don't think so.
But did you participate in the decision-making process? Apologies.
That would have been logical, yes.
So to the best of your recollection, you didn't block proposals or make suggestions or anything of that sort, or did you?
I can't recall specifics, but I would have played a part of the discussion.
Would you accept at least that in a small group it would be quite difficult not to have some influence?
Of course.
In the lead up to guerrilla gardening, did you spend a lot of time in the Reclaim the Streets office on Oakfield Road?
Very much so.
And GRD, if you want to just remind yourself who that is, HN3.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you recall that individual?
I don't know the surname, but I think the first name. He had a nickname that went with that.
Right, yes, please don't say the nickname.
No, but if that's the same person, I believe so.
He says this in his, I won't bring it up, but it's in his witness statement at paragraph 52. He says this: I got to know HN3 when elements of the libel support campaign / London Greenpeace office moved from my flat, which was in Islington, around 1999/2000 to another location known as the RTS House. HN3 was in the office whenever I visited. The McLibel support group, London Greenpeace computer and documents were stored in the Reclaim the Streets house. Do you recall meeting this individual GRD quite frequently in this premises?
I think so, yes.
Did you have access to the McLibel support group, London Greenpeace computer?
It's the first I've heard that it was there. I didn't know that.
Right, returning to Mayday specifically, if we could bring up, please, MPS 0003126. Sir, this is B45. This is an office note dated the 17th of March 2000. It appears to be written by Noel Waugh, but it relates HN3 to a meeting at which Jim Boyling, you, Noel Waugh, and HN53 were present. I'll read the first paragraph. It says, on the 17th of March 2000, myself and HN53 had a meeting with PD, Psychodream and Red Herring to discuss potential disruption tactics for the RTS May Day extravaganza. It was officially announced at the RTS public meeting last Tuesday that the venue is now Parliament Square. This was useful as we had told C Squad on Monday morning, and they had told Gold, brackets Mr. Messenger, on Monday afternoon. The details of the guerrilla gardening activity at the MOD are known to C Squad, but have not been further disseminated, and indeed were not mentioned at the RTS meeting. We discussed with Psychodream and Red Herring the possibility of preventing the Reclaim the Streets leaflets advertising the event hitting the streets. Psychodream explained that RTS 30,000 order was currently at Calvert's printers and that prior to collection they were to go to another venue for folding and further artwork. This location is not presently known, although Psychodream revealed that he had been instructed to pick up the leaflets next Monday/Tuesday from these undisclosed premises. In addition to the RTS print run of 30,000 leaflets, the May Day committee was having 100,000 stickers produced advertising Parliament Square as the venue. It was therefore felt that, due to Psychodream's close involvement in the distribution, plus the unknown location of so many other stickers, a preemptive strike against the printers was not a viable option. HN3, first of all, that first sentence sets out as the express purpose of this meeting to discuss disruption. As far as you were aware, was this a new practice or was this an established practice?
We had quite often had meetings with the desk, with the cover officers.
Yeah.
Yes, this would have been the first time I recall a meeting specifically to try and disrupt something, because I don't recall one having that similar before.
Do you recall, you may not have attended a meeting about disruption, but was it something you ever heard referred to prior to this, for example, in the SDS meetings?
No.
It seems paragraph 2 sets out what we can refer to as Plan A, which was a suggestion of disrupting it via the printers, so interfering with the printers and preventing publicity that way. But it's clear from this that that was deemed not viable. If we look at the next paragraph that starts Plan B, so this appears to be the next plan that was considered. Plan B was to reassemble a list of key May Day personnel mixed with other leading RTS activists who were not directly involved in this action for executive action by CO11, City, FIB, etc. After much discussion of the merits or otherwise of many people, a list of 10 people was drawn up and has now been submitted to C Squad. It comprises Privacy and, amongst others, John Jordan and Jim Sutton, who are deemed to be the 3 key organisers of the action, along with Andy Minker. The ideal scenario would be for Psychodream to pick up the leaflets on Monday, Tuesday, deliver 3,000 to the Tuesday night meeting, 15,000 to the RTS office, and another 12,000 to key activists, including himself. The leaflets would therefore enter the public domain on Tuesday evening, and on either Wednesday or Thursday morning, the home addresses of the above 10 activists plus the RTS officers be visited by police with a view to the seizure of literature promoting unlawful assembly. Does this ring a bell, HN3? Do you remember discussing this?
I'm afraid I don't, sorry, no.
So are you unable to assist us with whether or not this represents the plan in its entirety, or whether there were other aspects to it that were not set out in this note?
I'm afraid I can't help you.
Yes, take your time, because I realise it's dense.
I think preemptive action was talked about, but a lot later on in other events, and I don't recall this one.
well, the date of it, I'm not quite sure what you meant by that. The date of this is the 17th of March 2000. When you say preemptive action was discussed later than other events.
So subsequent actions further down the line, other unrelated RTS events, that one of the things that were discussed was preemptive arrests for people involved in planning. But I don't recall it for this one, because I don't think the RTS office was raided.
Well, it's just being discussed at this stage.
Yeah. Maybe it didn't make anything past discussion.
Well, we'll come to that because there's some indication by the end of the document. But it seems from this paragraph that we've just looked at that there was a plan, as you say, of preemptive arrests, and that Jim Sutton was to be arrested as part of that plan. I appreciate you say that you're struggling to recollect this, but I will ask the question. What was your understanding then, or if you can't recall, what would you understand the purpose of that plan to be?
To disrupt the organisation of the event. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I mean, it's by preemptively arresting people was the intention there then to stop the event happening.
Yes, I guess if they had key roles on the day, them being arrested would prevent those key roles from taking place. I'm guessing is what they're driving at.
Right. And you don't, to the best of your knowledge, you don't think there was anything else to it? I mean, in terms of dissuading people from getting involved and protesting, organising?
No, definitely.
Intimidating people? No. I'll read the final paragraph. It says, at a subsequent meeting I had with TN0019, TN0020 and Mike Dell, the legal viability of such searches were raised. The matter will be raised with the Solicitor's Department for a definitive answer, but should it be deemed non-viable, then the same names will be subject to a fairly overt series of stops, surveillance and general harassment. We will need to liaise closely on this to ensure that we have control of certain elements of such action, but overall such a resolution should not only seriously disrupt the organisation of the May Day event, but also materially assist PD in his withdrawal strategy. So it seems from that there were doubts about the legality of these preemptive arrests, and so it was decided that stops and searches would be preferable. Again, does that chime at all with any recollection you might have?
I think from wider reading, the Met had a history of providing RTS with funds from unlawful arrests. So that would, with the fact they're talking about the legality of it, that rings a bell, yeah.
Sorry, I missed the beginning of that response.
So
who provided funds? I missed that bit.
The Met Police had inadvertently provided funds from been sued for unlawful arrests.
Right, okay.
That's why they're probably focusing on the legality on this occasion, if I've got my chronology right.
I understand. So they were wary, and so stops and searches carried less legal risk. Is that essentially what you're saying? Or that's what you understood the MPS to think?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you still have to be proportionate and lawful, but yes.
Yeah. This notion of a fairly overt series of stops, surveillance and general harassment, how much detail, I mean, again, I appreciate it's a long time ago, but to the best of your recollection, how much detail was that discussed? In how much detail was that discussed?
I've no recollection of that, I'm afraid.
Can you help us with what the preferred impact, what did SDS managers, special branch, in your view, or would you think, what impact did they seek from conducting stops and searches and general harassment? What was it they hoped to achieve, do you think?
I don't know. You'd have to speak to them, I'm afraid.
Okay. Do you think, and would you agree that it suggests that what this suggests was sought was a chilling effect on protest to some extent, or not?
No, I'm not sure I'd agree with it.
Why would you not agree with that?
Because these were people who were proactively planning a demonstration. So I guess the police wanted to know what they did with that information is up to them, but we were supplying who was involved.
One of those individuals was Jim Sutton, though. So would you appreciate that that in itself is problematic?
I'm sorry, I don't follow your question
Don't
there,
worry.
Jim. If Jim was going to get stopped as part of an exit strategy, that's one thing. If that's what you're referring to.
Well, it just seems that it's suggesting that it would help with his exit strategy, but it was more that he would be, as one of the key organisers of May Day, he would, along with other named individuals, be originally considered arrested or stopped and searched, and that he's one of a small number. Do you see the point?
Of course, yes.
Yes. The very final sentence of this document reads, C Squad were delighted with these developments and are sure that in turn, Uniform will relish the challenge of being let off the leash by Special Branch. Do you have any recollection, HN3, of this being said at that meeting?
No.
Did you hear things like this said at other meetings to the effect of Uniform relishing the prospect of being let off the leash?
No, I
at
don't.
Protest, no. So are you able to help us with whether or not this notion of Uniform being let off the leash involved doing so on May Day itself, actually at the protest?
I think it may refer to the fact that they've been given prior information of what was actually going to happen. That's my understanding of what you've just read.
Right. Were you kept in the loop at all, HN3, about the extent to which this plan or Plan B was put into action?
No.
So you had no awareness of whether or not there were subsequent operations?
No.
Along those lines. Fine. JJ Jordan, in their witness statement, recounts an incident which took place on the 5th of April 2000, and in which they referred to being stopped in Victoria Station by a number of plainclothes officers and being photographed. Just for reference, that's paragraph 55 of that witness statement. He then says that they were followed home in Southwark to Barbican with their 6-year-old son to see a Star Wars exhibition. Were you aware of this at the time?
I don't believe so.
So you didn't hear anything about it from John Jordan at a meeting?
I can't recall it. Is there any reporting that would assist me?
No, there's not. I'm afraid not. So it's just whether or not you recall.
I don't dispute it. If John says that's what happened, I don't dispute that, but I don't know recollection.
And I take it that it follows from that you heard nothing about it from SDS managers or
No.
C Squad managers?
No.
If we could bring up, please, MPS 000334. It's at C47. Page 1, paragraph 1. It appears to be one of your raw reports, I think, HN3, as you describe them. It's not formatted in a SDS manner. It says, the final preparations for May Day began on the weekly Tuesday night meeting at the Cock Tavern. Privacy announced that a large number of people would be needed to help out in Oakfield Road on the Friday before May Day. Members of the TAT collecting group, Privacy, Jason Snoo, P. Snoo, Privacy and Privacy, held a separate meeting and agreed to meet at the office the following morning in order to collect the compost/horse manure from a nearby farm. And then paragraph 2, please. It sets out the movements of the manure. On Wednesday, the 26th of April, Privacy, Jason, Privacy, please speak to Jim, him, as he stayed with Privacy for the rest of the week and did a lot of the driving. Privacy, Snoo, and Privacy, she just turned up on spec to help. She is apparently involved in LAA. The previously mentioned went to the city farm in Kentish Town to collect the manure, which had been pre-arranged by Privacy. She had also arranged the purchase of 6 bales of hay. Thank you. And then if we could just go to paragraph 5. It says the next 2 days were spent decanting the manure from the large sacks into more easily carried shopping bags. Privacy is convinced her flat and telephone are bugged and will only speak freely on the roof terrace of her flat. At no time does she speak of Fieldgate or the flat on the Privacy estate. There was the feeling of separate little groups all preparing for the Monday without actually meeting them or talking about them. And then page 2, if we could go over, please. Just that first paragraph, it says the organising group consisted of Privacy, John Jordan and Privacy. At the last moment, both Jim and Privacy, not Privacy, were brought in on a consultancy basis. Okay, so we'll just unpack that a little bit. The previous paragraphs, is that an accurate record of your activities, broadly speaking, in the run-up to May Day 2000?
Yes, I would agree with that.
When you say TAT organising group, what does that mean exactly? Is that...
Oh, TAT's just a generic name for anything required, tarpaulins, anything that could be kettles, pots and pans, anything that could be just general TAT.
Like sundries.
But yes.
When you say at the last moment, both Jim and Privacy were brought in on a consultancy basis, can you help us with what that actually meant?
Even with reading that, I don't recall, I'm sorry.
Paragraph 2, page 2, I'll just take you to that. It says, Jason, Privacy and Privacy agreed to go to the critical mass on the Friday evening, which was due to start from the South Bank. This was so that they could distribute the small bags of compost to the cycle riders, but due to the attention of uniformed cops, only a dozen or so bags were given out, and the evening was deemed a disaster. And then the penultimate paragraph on page 2. On Tuesday, the 2nd of May, there was a social instead of the regular... Oh, no, apologies. We don't need to read that. Apologies. Penultimate paragraph, it says... I took you to the wrong one. So it reads, late on Sunday afternoon, Privacy asked Privacy and Jason to return to Primrose Hill to collect the stuff previously deposited and bring it to the drop-off point on the Monday morning. She explained that the drop-off point would be Belgrave Square and that they should wait about 10 minutes away and wait for a phone call to let them know that sufficient people were in the square. Privacy was tasked with recruiting people from the previously cracked squat and making sure that they were in place to receive the wheelbarrows, hay, etc. that the van would bring in. Privacy gave them a telephone number to ring in case the van broke down or was stopped by police. So again, to the best of your recollection, is this an accurate record of your activities in the immediate lead up to May Day?
Yes.
Did you seek management's authorisation to participate to this extent in the preparations for guerrilla gardening?
No.
Why was that?
We weren't intended on doing anything criminal. It was no more so than any other regular event.
To what extent HN3 was this you self-tasking, as it were? So you taking the initiative, getting involved, as opposed to you being directed by management? Yes,
that's a fair comment.
Right, moving to the day itself, so the 1st of May 2000. There are references in these documents to you driving a van. To the best of your recollection, was this GRD's van?
I think it was, because we didn't have a van. I might be getting confused with somebody else's, but this is my recollection.
Yeah, he says it was his van, so
Oh, okay,
that
yes, I would agree with that.
I think you answered my question with that response, but why did you borrow his van? Was it because you did not have a van?
Yes, correct.
In your witness statement to the inquiry, at paragraph 254, you refer to your arrest on this day. And you say that you were arrested with a van full of manure and seeds
Yes.
in the morning en route to the guerrilla gardening event.
Yep.
You say you were arrested together with Privacy and you were taken to Charing Cross Police Station. We'll come to the time you spent in Charing Cross Police Station. Can you help us just broadly, HN3, with the circumstances of that arrest, just what happened immediately before and how it happened?
I think elements of it were covered in the previous document. You've shown that we had the van, myself and the other individual spent the night at my flat. We drove early in the morning our plan was to go somewhere close by, but my recollection is we didn't even get to the close by RV. We were stopped by the police before we got there.
There's reference in your Hearn statement to your being stopped by a territorial support group van, and you say in that statement that it became clear that we had been followed. Is that your evidence now?
Well, I don't know where that would have come from. Followed by a TSG van is not hard to spot, so maybe it was a quiet bank holiday morning is my recollection. So we would have seen them for a while, and we probably, yes, I think we discussed, myself and the driver, we discussed that they were behind us and they were there for some time. Maybe a matter of minutes is my recollection.
Yeah. You say you were arrested for conspiracy, but conspiracy to do what?
I think they said we were arrested for conspiracy to cause criminal damage.
Right. Can you help us with what your co-conspirator, for want of a better word, the person in the van with you, how they came to be in that van with you? Had you invited them to help? Had they done so off their own bat? Can you recall?
I think they were a member of the guerrilla gardening subgroup, as previously mentioned in those other reports. And I think myself and that person got on quite well personally, and we did a lot of running around, driving and dropping things off, picking up. And I think, I don't know how it ended up just being us two, but no, there was no collusion on my part to invite him to participate. No, it was, we didn't even know we were going to get arrested.
I understand. No, but I'm saying you didn't recruit him to help you with whatever activity you were undertaking at that time. We know from your witness statement and the documents you were arrested, you were taken to taken to Charing Cross Police Station, where you say you spent 4 hours or so in a cell before being questioned. Were you given any explanation at any point as to why you were being held for so long in a cell?
No.
Did you query it with any of the officers there at the time, the custody officers? Were you ever given to understand, just for the avoidance of doubt, that the reason you were being held in the cell for so long was to prevent you from returning to the guerrilla gardening protest? Did anyone ever say anything to that effect?
No.
You refer to being questioned by a solicitor of Blavo Sharp before you were questioned. Were you advised on your own or with your fellow passenger in the...
I think, is this on the day of the arrest?
Yes.
At the station? No, just myself, I believe.
Were you charged on that day?
No.
So you were bailed to return?
Yes.
To the best of your recollection, HN3, what was the reaction amongst people in RTS to your having been arrested on this day? Were they annoyed with you? Were they sympathetic? Were they impressed that you'd taken one for the team?
Seem to remember the person who was marked as privacy being complimentary, that we'd done all we could and it was not our fault.
Yeah. There's a reference in your Hearn witness statement to the solicitor reporting back to group members that you'd performed well and that was well received by members of RTS. Performing well, does that mean the fact that you didn't blab, that you gave a no-comment interview, or does that mean something else?
No, I think that's probably a fair comment.
Looking now at the reaction of STS management to your arrest, what was their response to this having happened?
Ranging from occupational hazard to maybe assisting with my cover, but I'm speculating.
To the best of your recollection, were they pleased at least that you hadn't shown out?
Yes, very much so. That was one of the things that, going right the way back to this morning, that was talked about by all the UCOs, that if you did get arrested, you just kept stum and let events take its course.
Yeah, and you'd followed that guidance to a T, so in that respect, it was well executed, for want of a better word. We looked at it briefly before, that raw report of yours, HN3. I don't think we need to bring it up, but when you're setting out the events surrounding May Day, you say, not when you're referring to Monday, you say in that report, not much to say about Monday, and then there's 16 exclamation marks. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you agree that that makes it sound like it's all a bit of a joke?
No, I disagree.
Why do you disagree?
Because getting arrested is not a joke. And
no.
In context of that report, it was perhaps sarcasm or irony. No, ironic.
Right.
Not much to say about Monday. So, yes, that's what I would say.
Sure. Could we bring up, please, MPS 0732481, B48. If we could look at page 2, please. HN3, this is a minute from DCI HN58, dated the 2nd of May 2000. It's addressed to Detective Chief Superintendent Black through Detective Superintendent McClucklum. 0732481. Page 2, so it's the minute. Yeah, thank you very much. And HM58 has written this: I am satisfied that the officer acted within accepted SDS guidelines and that the security of SDS has not been compromised. A solicitor sympathetic to RTS who attended the police station greeted the conspiracy offence with some mirth, and by all accounts, even the custody sergeant was somewhat embarrassed. The manure is apparently being submitted for forensic examination! Exclamation marks. If you agree, I suggest that the case be allowed to take its normal course pending further developments. First of all, HN3, to the best of your recollection, is the second paragraph accurate in terms of what happened? Did the solicitor and even the custody sergeant treat the incident with some mirth and there was some embarrassment?
Yes.
Was it your impression that the tone of this minute reflects HN58's take on the incident, in that it was a bit of a laugh? The fact it was an arrest to do with manure, it was all treated as a bit of a joke, or not?
No, I would disagree with that assertion. I think clearly the minute about the manure being sent for analysis is quite flippant, but no, this was quite serious, because as obvious as the process took place, it caused all sorts of all sorts of problems.
Yes.
So no, it wasn't treated with mirth, but
No.
in fact, from the office, no.
Fine. So you weren't given that impression that management took it all quite lightly.
No, definitely not.
Right. Robert Banbury, in his witness statement, says that he was aware before the Reclaim the Streets meeting that followed from this, he was aware that you'd been arrested. And he said that at that meeting, you were very nervous about having to attend a police interview. Do you recall expressing those sentiments at an RTS meeting shortly after this arrest?
I don't recall that. No.
But is it fair to say that you were actually genuinely nervous about returning to Charing Cross Police Station?
Yeah, I don't dispute that at all.
You refer to this in your witness statement. You say, in paragraph 255, you say that when you were on bail in your cover identity, you were re-bailed by post at least twice. The consistent advice to me after my arrest was just to keep my head down, keep going, and see the process through. But I found that very difficult to do. Were you re-bailed by post at your request, HN3, because you were nervous about returning, or was that just how it happened?
No, I think that was just the general delays in the bureaucracy of the criminal justice system.
GRD said that following this arrest, this is paragraph 53 of his witness statement, he says that the van that you borrowed off him was impounded.
Yes, that's correct.
Do you recall that?
Yes, yes.
And he said that when it was returned a week or so later, all of the wheel nuts were loose. Do you recall that happening? I mean, or hearing about that happening?
Yes, I do. I felt really bad for that person, because as I recall, they needed their van for work.
Yes, that's what he says.
They wouldn't give it back to myself or the driver because we weren't the owner, so that this is my recollection.
Yeah.
He had to go and collect it, and I think he told me 2 days a week at some point, quite quickly afterwards, about the wheel nuts. Yes, I do recall that. Yeah, absolutely.
Jim Boyling, in oral evidence, when he was questioned about this, said that, well, he indicated that this was a thing, and that he said that when he had been arrested or apprehended driving a vehicle in relation to the M41 protests, that when the vehicle was returned to him by the police, the tyres had been let down. And he suggested that this was something police did to render vehicles unusable by activists. Does that ring any sort of a bell with you or chime with you at all?
I've not heard that.
Right. Could we bring up, please, MPS 0745252? This is B49. It's dated the 11th of July 2002. It's not entirely clear who the author is. I think it's probably HN53. It says, I had a lengthy chat with Red Herring last Thursday on general issues about his current operation and, more particularly, his imminent return to Charing Cross Police Station as one of the Manure 2. I did my best to assuage those anxieties. BG, Bernard Greene, is preparing a separate report on the strategy to his return to Charing Cross. Although by the end of the conversation he was rather more sanguine about the outcome, it is clear that, rather like the van situation, his concerns tend to weigh inordinately heavily on his mind. First of all, HN3, worried about the van situation. Is that what you referred to just now in relation to GRD's van, or was this another van?
Rather like the van situation. I'm not sure what he's referring to there.
Okay. He uses the phrase, his concerns tend to weigh inordinately heavily on his mind. The use of inordinately there suggests, or could be read as suggesting that you were making rather too much of a situation. Would you say that's a fair reading of it?
I don't know. I've read it, but I don't know what he means by it.
Did management ever give you the impression or ever convey to you that they thought you were making too much of a fuss about things like this, for example, like having to go back to Charing Cross?
Not directly or overtly to me, no.
No, you were never given the impression you were too high maintenance, for example. Looking at the final paragraph, it may also be worth recording that Red Herring said that on a recent visit last week to his GP about an old ankle injury, he had asked for the doctor's opinion on the loss of 2 1-inch square patches of beard. After seeking advice from a dermatologist, the GP asked Red Herring if he felt that he was currently under stress and said that this type of hair loss was often a symptom. The hair has since started to grow back, albeit grey. Do you recall this, Agent 3?
I do.
So, if I understand this correctly, you were so stressed out that you were actually losing hair. Is that right?
I believe you might be aware in my statement of some issues that we can't really discuss.
Yes, of course, yes.
And that would be the origin of the stress.
Fine. Okay, I appreciate it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand, yes. We won't go there.
But yes, I was.
And it was around this time that you were...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just something very quickly I just want to check with you. You refer in your witness statement at paragraph 24, we don't need to bring it up, but that a UCO commented to you on your hair loss and said he came up to you and questioned you and said, oh, you don't seem to have lost any hair, but I've read that you had hair loss. Does that ring a bell with you? I
yes,
can bring it
yes.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So my recollection...
Yeah. No names, please, sorry.
No, of course.
Yeah.
My recollection that it wasn't... I didn't mention it to the office.
Yeah. Right.
My recollection is that I mentioned it to another UCO and it had been overheard and reported.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then it ended up, you think...
I think so. I don't know the circumstances, but my recollection is I didn't mention it directly to them.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to be perceived or whatever. I didn't want to bring more trouble to their door. But I did speak to another UCO about said hair loss and was apparently overheard.
I understand. So this is not reported directly from you. This is reported from another UCO's account of what you said. Now, you refer in your witness statement to your cover officer suggesting around this time, when you were anxious about having to return to Charing Cross, about putting you in touch with HN1. Do you want to just, no names, please.
No.
And you say in your witness statement that HN1 enjoyed semi-legendary status.
Yes, that's true.
Can you help me with what you mean by that, HN3?
He was spoken in very high terms by other field officers who knew them.
And high terms in relation to what?
What he had achieved, what he'd done, their level of infiltration.
Were there other former undercover officers who were accorded that same status? And if so, who were they? Oh, again, yes, of course, being very careful about names.
I'm going to struggle to name them.
Fine.
But I can write them down.
Yes, please, if you could. Thank you. HN3, what, to the best of your recollection, did John Dines have semi-legendary status?
No. Not in the same way that I would describe these people.
Sure. What about Bob Lambert?
No.
Did you hear anything at the time about HN1 having had a sexual relationship when he was deployed?
No.
I understand from the documents that you did speak to HN1. I think,
correct.
Was that on the phone?
It was correct, yeah.
Can you recall, broadly speaking, what he said to you during that conversation? Just in broad terms, please.
I think he was broadly sympathetic to my plight, but will also just let matters take its course. It'll be okay, and nothing specific. But I think he was just letting me know it's okay.
Fine. Just sort of pep talk. Is that a fair way to describe it?
No, I think just someone to listen to.
Now, I understand from the documents and your witness statement that ultimately the arrest went nowhere. They dropped the charges. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And apologies if this seems like an obvious question, but what was your reaction to its being dropped?
Oh, very pleased.
And SDS management?
I guess the same.
Looking now quickly, HN3 at Earth First.
Yes.
This is a group mentioned in your authorisation documents, but looking at the reporting the inquiry has obtained, it seems that you only really, apart from very peripherally, report on the Earth First summer gatherings. Was that the extent, really, of your association with Earth First?
I think so, yes.
You refer in your witness statement to going on at least 3 Earth First summer gatherings. Is that accurate?
Possibly more, but
Yep.
definitely 3.
But they happened annually.
Yes.
In any event. And you say in your witness statement that it was almost obligatory for anyone in the environmental scene, which is why it was necessary for you to continue your involvement. Is that fair?
It was a good opportunity to network.
Is it fair to say that they were social events?
No. There was a large element of social in the evening, but during the day there was a full schedule of workshops and events. It was quite a full week.
Were there ever any actions taken during Earth First events?
I think there were sometimes. Yes, they were. I think there was one of the. They were. Yeah, I think they were, but I don't remember attending any.
Well, I was going to ask if you could provide us with a specific example.
I think there was one potentially at a quarry, but I might have got that wrong.
Did you participate in that?
No. I might have got that wrong.
Right. You continue in your witness statement. You say that there was a significant risk of being reported on at these events by officers in the MPOIU or by commercial chises because it was a relatively soft target and it was attended by all activists in that field.
Yes.
How did you know that there was a high risk of being reported on by MPOIU officers and or commercial chises?
I saw them at the events.
So you recognised them?
Yes.
Does it follow from that, no names please, or no identifying details, but does it follow from that you were informed of the identities of MPOIU officers with whom you might cross over in the field?
I think informed is too strong a word.
Right.
I think events around one individual, there was a backwards and forwards between myself and a cover officer, and the second individual, if it helps, at no point did they say that person, and this person are MPIO UCOs. No. But there was a conversation between us and the cover officers that it quickly became apparent that we could spot them.
Between, you say the cover officers, you mean your cover officers in
Yes.
the SDS?
Yes.
Can you please write down on a piece of paper who, when you said that person and that person? Can you write those names down for us?
Sorry, I need my writer.
HN3, what was your impression of why you were made aware of the identities of these people? Was it more because you had pointed them out as potentially
Yes.
suspect? I see.
Yes.
It's the same question, but in relation to commercial chises. Again, were you told in advance of the presence of commercial infiltrators in your groups, or was this just something that you stumbled upon?
I think we may have froze. If you can hear me, I think
Yeah, I
we've
can
frozen.
hear you. Oh no. I can see and hear you fine. Yeah, it probably is time for a break. So
I'm
I'm
just wondering
aware.
if you can hear me. Everything's frozen.
There's a technical mishap, and probably this is a good time to have our usual afternoon break.
Yes.
10 minutes?
4H and 3 might not know.
10 minutes. Technical hitch overcome, I believe.
Good news.
Hope I haven't spoken too soon, no. Technical hitch overcome, I think.
Apologies, sir. I think it was at our end, yes.
HN3, returning to the Earth First Summer Gathering in 2000.
Yes.
Now, I understand that this particular summer gathering took place in, well, near a place called Lake Gwynant. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. In Snowdonia. Does that sound right?
Yes, I do. I recall that. What year was this, 2000?
This is 2000, yes. Summer 2000. So the 7th to 11th of June 2000.
Yep.
Robert Banbury, in his witness statement, again, I won't take you to it, but it's paragraph 70, he said this about just prior to the journey to the summer gathering. He said this to another call participant when they were collating information for this inquiry. He said, "The Earth First Summer Gathering Snowdonia, we assembled at the RTS office in Finsbury Park. As rucksacks were gathered together, I went outside to check the tyres on the RTS minibus. Jason was there. I found a very deep 3-inch slash on one of the front tyres, obscured by dust. After piling in all our stuff and ourselves, we drove slowly to a nearby garage and had it replaced. Jason then drove the bus pretty much all the way to Snowdonia. Jim Boyling arrived at the gathering in his van." To the best of your recollection, HN3, is that accurate?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, I definitely drove. And I'm not sure about the tyre. I remember we had to go to a Wickes type store to buy some tarpaulins for the rucksacks on the roof. But I don't dispute Mr. Banbury's that the tyre might have been needed replaced. I don't recall that, but I don't dispute it.
Sure.
But I definitely drove all the way to Snowdonia.
How many people did you drive there?
I think it was a 15-seater minibus. I can't sure how full it was.
Did you have anything to do with the tyre getting slashed?
No, of course not.
If we could bring up, please, MPS 0003503. This is C54. HN3, this is your report on the Earth First Summer Gathering, the one we're talking about, the 7th to 11th of June 2000. The first paragraph says this. This year's Earth First Summer Gathering took place from the 7th to 11th of June on a campsite near to Lake Gwynant in North Wales. Attendance figures grew throughout the week and peaked at around 400 by the weekend. The event was wholly social with no actions planned or contemplated. It continues, although happy with the attendance figures, the organisers were rather peeved at the attitude of those present. The innumerable workshops were very poorly attended, with the exception of those dealing with May Day, and the majority of people spent their time walking, climbing, and generally chilling out. To add to the organisers' displeasure, a Portuguese delegate turned up with a mobile sauna, and other activists built a makeshift hot tub, all of which created a veritable crusty country club feel to the occasion. Crusty country club, is that your phrase, HN3, or is that what people at the event were referring to it as?
Is this my raw report, or is this a...
No, this is a processed report, so this has been typed up.
I've used the term crusty numerous times, but the crusty country club is not my reference.
Right. And you don't recall that being a term used by people at the gathering?
No. But I remember the hot tub and the sauna very much, and the site was very stunning in its geography.
Right. Okay.
So that's probably an accurate report from me back in the day.
Sure. It's fair to say that the activity... Well, no, don't worry about that, actually. Another question. Do you recall Jim Boyling at this event?
Oh, no, she's frozen.
He's not mentioned in your report. Robert Banbury said that he... Sorry. Oh, no.
No, you're back. You
Oh,
froze
am I
briefly.
back? Okay.
No, you're back. You're back.
All right, good. Fine. Did you hear my last question, which was about, do you recall Jim Boyling's presence at this event?
Not specifically, but I don't dispute you there if that's what Robert said.
You referred earlier in your evidence to seeing Rosa at this event. Do you recall saying that?
No, that's the earlier one in Suffolk.
So does it follow from that you don't recall seeing Rosa at this particular first gathering?
I don't recall.
Just to see if it jogs your memory, she has informed the inquiry that she may have had a conversation with you around the mobile sauna, or the existence of the mobile sauna, or maybe going into the mobile sauna. Does that jog your memory at all?
No, it doesn't. I don't dispute she was there, and if she did, I would have spoken to her based on Mayday and previous vegetable chopping, but I don't recall any specific, and I didn't go into the sauna, so it's not impossible that we had a conversation, but I don't recall it.
Sure. Does it follow from that you have no recollection of her being at this event with Boyling, clearly with the two of them in a relationship with one another?
I have no recollection of that.
When you refer to the first summer gathering with the vegetable chopping, to the best of your recollection, was that 99 or 2001?
I'm in my mind, it's in East Anglia, if that's 99.
Right.
It was a wet, miserable week.
Do you recall her and Jim Boyling at that event together? They weren't actually...
I recall her there, but I don't remember
Fine.
Jim.
Again, just to see if it jogs your memory, Rosa has a vague recollection of you and Jim Boyling having an interaction through a van window. I'm not sure whose van. And that it was a bit odd. There was something a bit off about it. Does that ring any bell at all?
No, I'm afraid it doesn't.
Okay. Again, just for completeness, did you have any awareness that at this summer gathering, Jim Boyling, Rosa and Helen Steele skived off the workshops and climbed to the summit of Mount Snowdon? Do you remember hearing about that?
I think I've reported that lots of people went climbing, but I don't specifically remember those three together, no.
Returning to your report, it's still up. If we could go to paragraph 3, please. Whilst the majority of workshops, such as bike maintenance, women only, and practical eco-magic, failed to draw an audience, the discussions on May Day were positive sellouts. There was an overwhelmingly negative response to the May Day action itself, which was regarded as ill-conceived, poorly planned, and misdirected. Experienced activists, sorry, it continues, I'll just go to the next paragraph. Experienced activists from the regions were surprised that so few of the established RTS organisers were involved in the planning, and many stated that they would no longer blindly support any action bearing the RTS name. So is it fair to say, HN3, that by this stage, again, people were very disillusioned with RTS?
I think this probably could be described as the beginning of the end.
Right, thank you.
It's my view.
Sure. Moving on now to positions of responsibility. Is it correct that you were, for a period, the treasurer in Reclaim the Streets?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you recall when you took on that role?
I'm sorry, I can't with chronology.
Don't worry, it's difficult. I'll take you to a document, see if this assists. So if we could bring up, please, MPS 0009522, it's B146. page 5, please, the final paragraph. So this is an undated document, HN3, but it seems to be written not long after December the 12th, 2000, just to orient us in time. And it reads, HN3's position as treasurer, according to Jim, should not be put in jeopardy as a result of the above. We'll get to that. Although Jim was present when it was being discussed, he did not offer any particular view on HN3, only that he hadn't been around much. Privacy and Rosa were the two who put him forward, and Privacy asked HN3. Jim did not really know HN3 in Weary World. Were you aware, HN3, that Jim Boyling was present during some conversation about whether or not you should be reclaimed the street's treasurer?
Yes, subsequently I was, yes.
After the when you say subsequently, do you mean after that conversation happened?
Yes, I think they discussed putting me forward. He, again, similar to the Jordan issue this morning, he then spoke to the office and said that he'd been part of that conversation.
Right. Were the office keen for you to take on that role, if possible?
I think they saw it as a sign of that I was definitely moving still in the right direction.
And was it your impression that they thought you taking on that role would give you access to useful information about?
Yes, that would follow.
Yeah. When it refers here to Rosa putting you forward, again, is that something you have first-hand knowledge of, or is that just something you heard reported back by?
I didn't know that was the case. I believed it to be another couple of individuals.
Now, there's a slightly oblique reference here. It's hard without going through all the documents. But when it says here, HN3, that the first bit, HN3's position as treasurer, according to Jim, should not be put in jeopardy as a result of the above. The above is a reference, I won't take you through it all, but it is a reference to Rosa's efforts. Are you there, HN3? Sorry, did you hear that?
Yeah, I'm here. I saw...
Yep, it's a reference...
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Rosa's effort.
Yeah, that's it, yep. Rosa's efforts to track down Jim Boyling. So it sets out, there's a number of documents preceding this that relate to SDS awareness of Rosa's efforts to track down Jim Boyling and the research that she was carrying out and the fact that she'd requested his phone records, and all of these efforts were documented in some detail by SDS managers. Were you aware of her efforts to track down Jim Boyling? Were you aware that this was taking place at the time?
The first I became aware of it was when there was a phone call received into the office, which I think, and again, I apologise if I'm getting information from what I knew subsequently after the inquiry started. My recollection is I remember the office talking about a phone call being received from somebody who had got Jim's billing, if that's correct.
Yes.
And then that necessitated a move of the office. Is that correct? That's my recollection.
That is accurate, because we do have a record amongst these documents of Rosa phoning the office. I'm sorry, I haven't made the date. I haven't made a note of the date.
No,
but I think it's
I recall
12th
that.
of December.
Sorry?
12th of December.
12th of December, thank you very much. So 12th of December 2000, that Rosa rang the office and that she spoke to Bernard Greene and she spoke to Noel Moore. So you're right. So do you recollect being told about that at the time when that just after that happened?
I think so, which is not really helpful. Yes, because I don't know if it was the detail that you're describing now, but my recollection is that an activist had rung the office. I don't think I was told who it was at the time, is my recollection, but I clearly know that to be the case now. Right,
okay. So can you remember in what sort of a forum you were told about this? Was it at a meeting? Was it one-to-one?
I'm afraid I can't, no, I'm sorry.
But if I understand your evidence correctly, you suggest that they didn't say there is a woman called Rosa, as we're calling her, trying to track down Jim Boyling.
That's my recollection.
So it wasn't made explicit to you that this was a woman who'd had a sexual relationship with Jim Boyling, who was trying to track him down. Is that your evidence?
I think that became clear and apparent sometime later, once we'd moved offices, and I just assumed that the lengths that she was going to, once I found out who it was, that would be my understanding. But at no point did somebody set that out in the terms you've just described.
When you say sometime later, what time period later? How long afterwards?
Probably when the newspaper articles came out.
Oh, so you're saying like 2011?
I think so, yes.
But, okay, so you're saying that when you moved
That's
offices,
when I confirmed it.
You confirmed it, but what I'm trying to establish is at what stage did you start to think that the fact that Rosa was so determined to track down Jim Boyling was as a result of the fact that she'd had a sexual relationship with him? When did that become apparent? Sorry.
Yes. So it's not helpful. Sometime between those two dates of leaving the field. I know that when we moved the office, that was quite a big deal. I've got no recollection of being specifically told that this is what happened. I think it was just supposition that we put everything together. And I think in hindsight, my understanding is that it all made sense once the newspaper came out.
Did you discuss it amongst yourselves, the UCOs, why you were having to move offices?
That would have been sensible. Yes, that would have been reasonable.
Can you help us with when that office move took place?
I'm afraid I can't.
Okay, well we can look into
sometime after obviously the phone call.
Yeah. Now returning to the treasurer role, HN3, can you help us with what your position as treasurer in Reclaim the Streets, what did that involve?
I don't think it involved anything. I don't recall signing anything or having any paperwork or banks. I might have had a bank book potentially,
right,
but I don't recall signing any checks, or I think there were. My recollection is two of us had to sign something at the same time to be valid, but I don't recall doing that. I may be wrong, but that's my recollection.
To the best of your recollection, did it give you access to contributors' personal bank details?
No.
Did it give you detailed knowledge of where funding for for RTS was coming from?
I don't believe so, unless I've reported on it. I think I just had a bank. I may be getting confused with another treasurer role.
Right.
My recollection is it was a fairly anodyne bank book with just lots of balance figures in it.
Did the SDS ever ask you or solicit intelligence from you about contributors to Reclaim the Streets?
Not that I recall. Had I known who was contributing, then I would have reported it.
To the best of your recollection, you referred to two people having to sign something. Were you, RTS say that you were the main signatory to the bank account? Does that sound right?
I don't dispute that, if that's what they're saying, and I may be getting confused with another role, but I remember it being more, there wasn't a great deal to do, if anything.
Was there ever any discussion with SDS managers about the legality of your being a signatory to a bank account in a false identity?
No.
Did your role as treasurer give you access to information such as which printers were being used by Reclaim the Streets to publish flyers and newspapers?
I think I went to a couple of printers to collect things, so I would have gone to them, yeah.
And same question, but in relation to tool and vehicle businesses that were used by Reclaim the Streets?
No, I don't think. I think that was more the hire of vehicles, and vehicles was in another role later on. Other than borrowing that person's van, I don't think I've got any recollection to what you're referring.
Understood. when you say you were given access and you did actually go to printers, we've got no reporting on that, but to the best of your recollection, did you report on printers and going to collect leaflets, etc., from particular printers?
Most definitely.
To the best of your knowledge, HN3, I appreciate you may not have been privy to this information, but do you know whether that type of information that you passed on was then used to disrupt Reclaim the Streets activities in the way that was discussed in that file note that we looked at pre-May Day?
I have no knowledge.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
No, I have no knowledge of that.
Right. There's a reference in a report, I can take you to it if necessary, but at this stage I won't, to your agreeing to be the Reclaim the Streets mail czar. Does that ring a bell?
Post mail or email?
No, post mail. I'll take you to the report.
I don't recall. Maybe at Oakfield Road, maybe.
Well, I'll take you to the report just to clear it up, just so it's not confusing. So it's 0722134. It's tab C233, and it's dated March 2000. Well, it's around 2002. It's one of your raw reports, so the date's not entirely clear, but it's around that time. Page 1, and it's the penultimate paragraph. HN3, it reads, one of the factors which he cited for his stratospheric stress levels, this is an individual, we don't need to worry about who that is, was the responsibility of controlling the RTS finances. As a result, rather than one main signatory and two deputies, it is intended to have four main signatories, and privacy is attempting to find willing victims. The mail is still delivered to the PO box in Hackney, which it shares with Genetics, although it is going to be rerouted to an area nearer to Jason Snoo, who has agreed to be the mail czar. So actually, the first question, can you recall what time period, or roughly, for what time period were you the treasurer of RTS? Did you relinquish that role at some point?
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
Don't worry. Looking now at the mail czar section, do you recall what that involved at all now that you've seen it in the report? Does that ring any bells?
It doesn't ring any bells, but it makes sense that I would have offered to go and be helpful and collect the mail and redistribute.
RTS say of this that they continued using this PO box, this post office box, for many years, and that the address of that post office box was printed on the group's literature. And they say that it was recorded on their literature from around, roughly, again, the 5th of June 2002 until at least the 28th of December 2005. And then thereafter, sometime thereafter, it changed to the LARC premises on Fieldgate Street. So that's quite a long period of time. Do you remember collecting mail for that period of time?
Not from a PO box. I thought the mail was collected at the address in Finsbury Park. I don't dispute it, but I've got no recollection of it.
Fine. Do you have any recollection of what you did with any mail that you may have handled on behalf of RTS? For example, did you intercept it? Did you open it? Or did you act in good faith?
No, definitely not.
How can you be so certain?
Because that's something that would have been overstepping the boundaries of what I was allowed to do, right, in my belief.
So again, just to be clear, SDS managers never asked you to do that or anything akin to that. Thank you. Do you recall having a similar role? Sorry, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but when you were involved in Disarm DSI, do you remember taking on a similar role in relation to something called the BM box? Does that ring a bell?
Possibly. I recall being as a signatory on that account, but I think this is different. You're talking about postal mail.
Yeah, this is postal mail. Don't worry, we'll come to emails. I mean, really what I'm getting at, HN3, is just simply, did you deliberately, I mean, you've preempted my question, but did you make a point of seeking out these kind of roles relating to mail in order to gain access to information that might be contained therein?
No, definitely not. Driving, dropping off, picking up, being indispensable in those methods, but not as you described now.
Understood. I'm going to take you now, HN3, to the incident relating to the incendiary device and Robert Banbury.
Mm-hmm.
If we could look actually quickly at a report which relates to some actions taken in the run-up to that incident. So this is MPS 0005381, it's C124. It's dated the 19th of February 2001. This is one of your reports, HN3. And it reads, on Monday, the 19th of February 2001, a small group of environmentalists under the direction of Rob Banbury will gather beside the Nelson Mandela statue at 2:30 p.m. in order to take part in some form of minor protest. Source comment, the gathering will be small with no disorder anticipated. Do you have any recollection of that particular?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yes.
Robert Banbury says that we can take that down, thank you. He says that you helped hang a banner on a statue, I think, of Nelson Mandela, well, it says in the report, reading Terrorist 19th of February 2001, and that the point of this was to highlight the government broadening the scope of what it called terrorism in the Terrorism Act 2000. Does that sound right?
Yes, I don't dispute that.
If I could ask for another document to be brought up, please. This is UCPI 38542. This is one of Rob Banbury's exhibits, HN3. Just wait for that to come up. He asserts in his witness statement that this was another part of the same action, this action to protest against the Terrorism Act 2000. So it's UCPI 38542. Well, while we're waiting for it to come up, essentially it's a press release, HN3, and it relates to, well, I'll tell you what it says on the press release. It says it involved a stunt involving bulb-shaped test tubes filled with genetic material from an oil rapeseed trial placed in boxes marked state terrorism, modified GM rapeseed, a time bomb waiting to go off. And it says that this was sent with, yes, there we go. So it's under notes to the editor. And basically, well, I mean, I've sort of set it out now, but essentially it shows that this was a press release that accompanied the sending out, he explains in his witness statement, some bulb-shaped test tubes that were fashioned to look like an old-style anarchist bomb, and that these were sent to 10 Downing Street, the Home Office, and some senior civil servants, these fake bombs involving test tubes. Do you have any recollection of that?
No, I've been served with something similar to this, so I've read it, but I've got no recollection of it.
Yes, sorry, I can't actually. If you just scroll down a little bit. Well, don't worry too much, it's fine. But you don't recall being aware of the intention to send these fake bombs out to these
No, and it would have
places.
very much, unless it's figured in my reporting, but I would have very much reported this if I was aware of it, because of the potential implications of things going wrong.
Well, we've not obtained any reporting on it, but to the best of your recollection, you can't. It doesn't ring any bells. Is
No,
that
not at all.
correct? Now you're aware of this allegation that was made, but Rob Banbury says that on the 20th of February in 2001, he attended a weekly meeting of Reclaim the Streets at the Arsenal Tavern. There were about 40 attendees, and that you were there. You were there. Are you there? Yeah, sorry. You were there, and you sat directly behind him, and he had a courier bag with a single strap. Do you recall that meeting at all? I mean, I appreciate.
I've subsequently been informed of everything, been interviewed about it, but
Yeah.
if it saves you any time,
Fine.
I did not place anything in his bag. I've got no real recollection of the event.
Yeah.
Was interviewed thoroughly about it and
Understood.
made a prepared statement.
Do you have any awareness from any quarter about who might have? Don't name anything, but were you privy to any information about this happening? Did you have any awareness of this?
Had I heard about it?
Yeah.
No, not had I. As you've seen from the level of my reporting and the detail,
Yeah.
had I been made aware of something such as this happening,
Yeah.
it would have been reported.
Just to put to you, just Robert Banbury's, his take on it has evolved. So I think initially he suspected you, and now his view on it has evolved, and he thinks it's not necessarily you or the SDS, but he speculates about who might have done it. But when you say that you think, you said in your witness statement that you thought, or you suggested that maybe he had falsely accused you in order to get your anonymity order lifted. You say that it's a ruse. Just to clarify, when you say it's a ruse, do you mean that it's a ruse that he accused you, or a ruse the entire thing is fabricated?
I can't comment on whether the incident happened or not, but my belief at the time, because to put it in context, I don't believe the MPS had confirmed the identity of a number of officers, and this was at a time when, careful to stray into matters.
Yes,
I believe
be careful.
Yes. So if you've got a copy of my statement that I made in my prepared statement, I believe that it was an attempt at the time to uncover my identity.
Right, fine.
That helps.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Fine.
All I can say is, had I have heard of anything similar, I would have reported it.
Right. Moving on now, HN3, to the London Action Resource Centre. I understand this was located at 62 Fieldgate Street, and that this premises was purchased by Reclaim the Streets in autumn 99, and that Robert Banbury was one of the co-founders. Does that broadly align with?
I didn't know that, but I don't dispute it.
Were you involved in the renovations of these premises?
I probably ran or picked things up, but I don't remember doing any plastering, painting, or maybe some painting, maybe downstairs. But when you say renovations, I think there was some quite industrial building work went on at the early stage by professional builders, is my recollection.
Sure. There's a report, I don't think we need to bring it up, it's very brief, but for the transcript, it's 0008950, it's C245, dated the 27th of May 2002, and in it you are described as a central figure in the day-to-day running of LARC, L-A-R-C. It's one of your reports. Is that accurate? Were you a central figure in the day-to-day running of it?
Is this a raw report of mine or a produced
No,
report?
it's a processed report. We can bring it up. It's 00089.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
That's probably a touch exaggeration. I used to go there all the time for the meetings, but I wasn't a trustee or involved in the running of the place.
When you suggest it's slightly exaggerated, did you exaggerate your role there, or do you think that is one of the desk officers? One of the sergeants
Essentially, yeah.
writing up the report.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I did go there regularly.
Right.
Don't dispute that. And we had meetings there, but yeah, I wasn't involved in the running of the place.
Were you treasurer at Lark at any point?
No, not that I recall.
So Robert Banbury says that you were. Is he mistaken about that?
I think he's confusing another group that I was treasurer for.
If we could just bring up quickly, please, MPS 0077387. It's C259. HN3, you can see this is a processed report. The date the intelligence was obtained is the 7th of January 2003. This refers to someone else as the treasurer of LARC. I mean, obviously, at a certain point in time. But it sets out the costs involved in the daily running of the building, and it sets out the analysis: electricity, telephones, water, insurance, total. Can you recall how you were privy to this information? Was this something that was discussed openly, or was this information that you accessed due to holding a particular level of seniority or position of trust?
No, I think whoever the person I'm referring to must have told me. Can you just zoom in a bit, please, so I can hardly read it?
Oh, sorry. Yes, can we zoom in just a little bit, just to the figures? Thank you.
Oh, I suspect whoever the privacy person has probably told me, and I've reported that back.
Fine.
It's my best assessment.
Sure. If we could take that down, please, and if we could bring up MPS 0008379, that's C219. It's dated March 2002. No, apologies, we don't actually need to bring that up. I'm going to skip ahead. If we could bring up, apologies, can we bring up MPS 0077352? It's C257, and it's dated the 26th of November 2002. We'll just read that first paragraph. It says the Lark building has finally passed its health and safety inspection and is legally open for business, and the computer network is currently being installed by Privacy and Privacy. There is, however, still some confusion as to who is actually going to use the Lark office on a day-to-day basis. Originally, 3 years ago, it was going to act as the RTS office. However, the dramatic dissolution of RTS has left a rather big hole in the planning of the office, and it now seems likely that indie media will try to muscle in and use it as their HQ. I'm just flagging that because this seems to mark the final demise of RTS around November 2002. Does that sound right?
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. Just a quick point in relation to indie media trying to muscle in. Reclaim the Streets make the point that they worked harmoniously with indie media, that indie media sprang out of the media team for J18, and that Muscle In is an inaccurate portrayal of the dynamic between them. Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I would agree. That's probably the author not... Either I've misconstrued it, or the author has not understood the dynamic, but what you've just said I would agree with.
If we could go to the same report, but the final paragraph on page 1, please. It starts, in the run-up to the Halloween action, there was a constant police presence outside Lark. Consequently, there is now a log inside the office that will be used to record the dates and times of any police presence and the shoulder numbers of the officers involved. A digital camera has also been obtained and will be used to film such visitations. An initial plan to publish the pictures on the internet has been delayed whilst consideration is given to using such film as evidence in any future civil actions against the police for harassment. Do you recall this constant police presence outside Lark, HN3?
Yes, I do.
Can you remember how frequently there was a constant sounds like a contradiction to us, but how frequently there was a police presence outside Lark? Was it in relation to specific events, or was it pretty much constant?
No, I think the specific events would be fair comment. I went a number of times to drop things up, pick things up, and there was nobody there. Right. But if you went to a meeting that was publicly advertised, then there was invariably a fit team carrier and photographers there.
So does it follow from what you said that the presence of police outside was linked to publicly advertised events? Apologies.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last bit?
Don't worry, yes, are you all right? Do you want to have a glass of water?
Yes.
Okay. You said that it seemed that you linked the presence of police outside to publicly advertised events. To the best of your understanding, was that the causation was between the two? If something was publicly advertised, the police would be there. It wouldn't necessarily be in relation to your intelligence, for example.
That's my view. There were events that took place there that I had no knowledge of, and it would appear that police were there. So right. I think it was the public.
Why do you report on the plan to publish pictures on the internet whilst consideration has been given to use such film as evidence in any future civil actions? Is that you forewarning the police of civil actions, or is that just part of the general hoovering up of intel?
Yeah, if I'd have known about it, we'd have told them.
So you did see it as part of your role. If you're aware of any intention for civil action against the police, you would see it as part of your role to report that?
Not so much civil action, but anything to do with police interaction. I think, as we've discussed earlier, I reported on absolutely everything as much as I could, to the detail I could, and this would have been part of that.
In relation to the demise of Reclaim the Streets, HN3, there is some reporting, I won't take it to you at this stage, but from you, in process reports, on interpersonal disputes and some disagreements within the group. To the best of your recollection, did you ever seek to exacerbate those kind of disputes or to sow discord within Reclaim the Streets?
No, not at all.
So it was never part of your tasking to, again, disrupt the group by fomenting discord and dysfunction?
No.
Just a quick point. I think, sorry, sir, we might need to go off stream briefly for this. This is very quick, but it's a...
When you say go off stream, you mean the live reporting subject to 10-minute delay
exactly.
will cease?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yes. Then we better pause while that is set up.
It's on, yes. I'd like... Oh, sorry. Wait till we're back on stream. HN3, I want to look now at the tone of some of the reports on Reclaim the Streets. Now, I appreciate you pointed out in your witness statement and subsequently that there's a distinction to be drawn between your raw reporting and the processed reports. I'd like to just look at a couple of those reports and just seek to ascertain where you think the source of the responsibility for the tone lies. If we could bring up, please, MPS 0008536. This is a report from 2002. The second paragraph reads, Privacy, a relative newcomer to the group, has decided that this is a good opportunity to promote RTS and that he is the ideal person to star in the production. He has been told in no uncertain terms that RTS never cooperate with the media and that neither he nor anyone else should become involved in the production. Nevertheless, the naive and anally retentive Privacy has the whiff of stardom in his nostrils and is determined to go through with the filming. Thank you. If you take that down, please. Would you agree that that tone is quite unpleasant, quite sneery?
Yes, I agree.
Did that tone emanate from you, do you think, HN3, or do you think that's the cover officer?
I don't believe it. If you've got a copy of my original report, I'm quite happy to take responsibility, but I don't recall that being my words.
Okay. If we could look at another one, please, which is MPS 0003695. This is C59. Page 2, please, paragraph 1. This reads, as a special treat, Privacy Snoo, an Iranian national of doubtful sanity, gave a 30-minute lecture on the World Bank. This was well received by the publican, whose profits soared as the audience fled for the sanctuary of the bar. Again, same question, HN3. Is that your choice of language, or do you think that came from the cover officer?
No.
Not your choice of language?
No. I know who the individual is, but that wouldn't have been my...
You know who the subject of the report is, you mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I believe so, but
Sure.
no, they're not my words.
Fine. If we could look at, please, MPS 0042156, page 2. This is C353. So it's page 2, paragraph 3, please. This is a raw report. Mm-hmm. One of the most prolific correspondents on the G8 email list is Privacy, check with redactive surname, who uses the email address of Privacy. If ever the proverb, empty vessels make the most noise, was intended for a specific person, then it was Privacy. She is currently Andy Mank's girlfriend and lives with him. Her activist credentials only run to a former part-time womble. It has become apparent that various agencies are also monitoring the same email list and are basing assessments and targeting on the contents of her emails. That would emanate from you, it would seem, HN3. Because
definitely, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Can you comment on your choice of language there, why you chose to?
I stand by that. I think it was the volume of emails that didn't contain any real relevance to the group. Links to other things, non-relevant data information is my recollection.
But the point I'm trying to make, HN3, is that referring to an individual as someone to whom the proverb empty vessels make the most noise, do you think that's an appropriate way to talk about a person in an official document? Or something that was going to make its way into an official document?
No, probably you're right. On reflection, it's probably a poor choice of words, and I should have maybe just explained that the correspondent was just spamming the group with unnecessary emails would probably be more accurate.
Just one final example, if we could bring up, please, MPS 00431111, page 2. This is C357. If we could go, there's a heading which is other stuff. Page 2. Oh yeah, fundo note, sorry. 4 paragraphs underneath. I'll read the preceding one as well. So it says plans are now well underway for the Direct Action Affinity Group Training Day, which takes place on Saturday the 7th of May at the Institute of Autonomy Squat. Most of the workshops will run in tandem, although the blockading workshop, which has been given the most prominence, will take place at the end of the day. Alexi Sale once said, anybody who uses the term workshop and who isn't involved in light engineering is a complete wanker. Again, HN3, why did you include in this raw reporting that particular observation?
The context of that was, I believe some of the activists used that in some of their, I think they were, the phrase is not quite right. I think it's a bit more derogatory at the end. Right. But I think, so when the activists used it on some of their agitprop, it was used in sort of a term of self-deprecation. Right. And I've just repeated it there.
Okay, so you weren't being pejorative yourself, is that?
No, not at all.
You say in your witness statement in relation to some of these examples, and some other examples, to be fair, you say that some of your more jarring comments were occasional misguided attempts at humour. Do you stand by that?
Yes, and for that, I regret my choice of language.
Looking at your reporting, the tone seems fairly consistent throughout in there. Whether or not I appreciate that some of it you say was introduced by the cover officer. But what I'm interested in is, did you ever receive positive feedback on this particular tone? Did you ever receive feedback to the effect that actually people were finding these reports to be amusing? Or
no.
The phrasing? You never heard that sort of feedback?
No.
Rosa has told the inquiry that Jim Boyling told her that you spoke openly about despising the movement, so that's Reclaim the Streets, and the people in it. Did you ever say anything like that to Jim Boyling?
No, quite the contrary. Much as it would surprise people, I had a very strong affection for Reclaim the Streets.
Can you think of if there's any way that Jim Boyling may have got the wrong impression of the way you felt about the people you're reporting on? Okay.
No, I don't even recall anything close to that.
In relation now, HN3, to the demise of Reclaim the Streets, I'd just like to ask you to comment on Reclaim the Streets analysis of why they collapsed. This is their witness statement. If we could actually bring this up, please. This is UCPI 38295. It's page 146, paragraph 8.5.9. And they say this in relation to their decline. Reclaim the Street seemed to run out of momentum after the May Day 2000 guerrilla gardening event, a result of police harassment and violence, media lies, and internal recriminations. There were growing tensions, some of them no doubt arising from the massive levels of police harassment increasingly being experienced by those the SDS had fingered as leading lights, also due to the chilling effect of massive and disproportionate policing experienced during the events organised. There was a lot of burnout, people feeling overwhelmed and unable to commit time and energy into making things happen. Now, I mean, I appreciate in relation to your involvement with RTS, would you broadly agree with that analysis? Do you think that's completely wrong?
There's elements of truth. I think there were police out of existence. I think the ability for the police to reflect on the reporting probably from my predecessor and allow them to do what they wanted to do in certain circumstances. But I would agree that there was the burnout, people feeling overwhelmed to commit time. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure about massive and disproportionate policing experience. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, but I would burn out, and the timing is about what we discussed earlier. Media lies, definitely. Internal recriminations, potentially yes. Growing tensions. So yes, I would agree with a large portion of that.
Just a brief point. We referred a little while ago to a heavy police presence outside Lark. Do you recall there ever being a heavy police presence also outside Reclaim the Streets meetings, particularly in the build-up to May Day, for example?
No, I don't think there was.
You have no recollection of that?
I'm not sure if that coincided with the formation of the FIT teams, the Forward Intelligence teams.
Yeah.
I think they were later on in the chronology of the events. I don't recall ever seeing police outside an RTS event. I could be wrong. I just don't recall it.
Moving on to another slightly different topic, HN3. Is your involvement in criminality?
Yes.
I want to ask you about drug taking.
Yes.
You refer in your witness statement to your authorization or an authorization document. And you say in relation to that you believe that your managers took the view that fly posting and occasional drug use constituted minor criminal activity, as did matters like minor theft and criminal damage. What was the basis for your belief that your managers took the view that occasional